All right, folks, we're back here for another review of Halo Episode 3, Emergence. And man, this episode made me smile from top to bottom, besides the gory stuff. But I got to just say before we get into it, obviously the host here, Nigerian Terrell, Jen Taylor, man, what just a legendary resume in voice acting. And for her to embody the physical form of Cortana in this it's well deserved, and I am just happy to see this come to light. Her being the voice of Cortana throughout the series, her being the voice of Cortana for all of your Microsoft 10 needs. This is one of those type of things where it's not a given. You know, we've seen other legendary voice actors, which she absolutely is in this conversation, that don't always get this opportunity. One being Batman, Kevin Conroy got it, which was amazing. But there's other folks that you can say, yo, they really been voicing this person forever.
Right.
When will they get a chance to do so? I mean, we could talk about Kyrie Payton and Cyborg and Aqualad, like folks like that, you know, and you're like, yo, absolutely should be them. And, you know, forget circumstances, age, and all that other stuff. It should just be a given when you say, like, that person deserves to play that role. They made this character stay alive, stay afloat all these years. They deserve it. It's not even a question when it comes to it. So beyond that rant, I just want to definitely give my flowers to Jen Taylor, who in playing Cortana, it's just amazing. And man, did they pour the budget on her too, because the hologram, like, you know, aesthetic is so cool. It's so cool. And they really did, like, as far as some other stuff as well, like the visual aesthetics and everything in this series is just really top tier. And this was a crazy episode, man. But in this episode, John gets to meet Cortana, who becomes his new partner. You know, not just no regular AI, like Cortana kind of doing her own thing. You know what I mean? And alongside them together, they get to really discover the Keystone. And you know, it's still a little bit of an experimental process, trying to figure out like what more John can do with it. Cortana kind of assisting, giving vitals and all that other stuff. But, you know, it's still a big mystery to it, which we did get more answers. Meanwhile, Kwan, along with, I'm about to call him Bokeem, but Soren, played by Bokeem. Soren, look, she's out here saying, I'm tired of being on the sidelines. It is time for me to fight the power. She wants to join the resistance. You know, she wants to, you know, of everything that's happened with her family and her home world, she wants to be able to do something about it. And there's been a lot of persuasion, and she finally seemed to got sworn to kind of buy into it, and some money and obviously strengthening up their troops. Little does he know. But they're going to go on an adventure themselves. And then the other aspect of this episode is Makee. Am I saying that right? Is it Makee or Makee? I think we should figure this out, because
I feel like it was Makee.
I want to say Makee. That was my first impression. We'll go with Makee, folks. If we're wrong, just let us know. But Makee, Makee. Man, got a quick backstory. That was kind of alarming. I mean, this show is kind of brutal. I mean, kids can get it. No one's off limits. But what was interesting in this was something that any Halo fan should know, because this is a very, very normal tactic here by the Covenant. And we see that Makee now becomes a reclaimer here. So that, along with getting her Keystone back, which means that she needs to know where that demon is at, because I'm gonna bring his head back along with my artifact. So that's the premise of this episode. So Terrell, let's get into it. Let's start on the top of the episode. First thing first, little Makee and her boyfriend reading a book, saw the word kiss in it. Almost. You know, when we were young, we used to sing the Kiss song, but hey, out here in the middle of a war, reading like a scripture of some sort out of the novels. Like, you know, when you see this word, you got to do it. But
he was trying to set that up real nice. Like he almost had it.
My man was smooth, but not smooth enough there. But yeah, what was your thoughts, sort of say, coming into the early parts of this episode?
I clearly, I mean, I didn't know where we were because it kind of just jumped into, I thought we were just like some random planet, but little did we know this was the backstory to that character that we've seen in the previous two. And kind of how she came to be with the Covenant on the ship, as you said, is the Reclaimer, and whatever that position is, because they still haven't revealed it just yet. And like I said, her, I guess her friendship with the boy who winds up getting harmed in the process of them searching for her.
Yeah. Charlie Murphy, who plays Makee or Makee, whatever it may be. I'm going with Makee, so this is the last time I'm gonna try to play both sides of that. Menacing, a presence of just uncertainty for the viewers. You just really don't know. Yeah, it's a baby face, and not by definition, but literally looks like a baby face, and you just kind of like, I kind of want to believe whatever she's going to say, and you don't want to be those folks because some people played very dearly for that very, very later on in this episode. So there's that. But yeah, like you said, the Reclaimer, we got to still determine what's next for that. But right now, she says, look, I'm going to get the demon. I'm going to get my Keystone. There is obviously two of them. He has one. They know that. That's hers, as she's calling it. And we got to see where that goes from there. Now, I do have a question because I've always known it as the Keystone.
Right.
But the Forerunner Keystone is, do the two of them have different names?
Yeah, so I mean, definitely this is, I feel like, where they're kind of veering off a little bit of the information from the games. Like, you can't even, at this point, you might as well kind of not acknowledge the games as the Bible of this. They're gonna go this different direction. And as we know, those Keystones are pretty much like the batteries for the Halo rings, basically.
Yep.
And of course, like we know from the games, but from this show's perspective, like this not only generates the energy for the rings, but it kind of stimulates your brain and accesses memories and stuff like that. But yeah, what you were saying, like they show like the Forerunner stone, whatever it is, like you see them kind of like the robots or whatever in the games kind of following around, but they are pretty similar. As they show you in this episode, there are two different ones, and one's bigger than the other.
Right.
When they find that one, will they acknowledge it with that title?
Yeah, and obviously, there's still speculation as to if this true. They're kind of going off of John's little hunch in terms of like tapping his memories and realizing that there's a second one and whatnot. We'll get to that in a second, but yeah, you make absolute sense, and you're right, especially based on the lore I know. Going back to Cortana. So obviously Cortana is being used now to keep. maybe not. I think the thing about AIs is that we always like to allude to AIs being, basically living in this box, and we see that Cortana is learning, and not just learning, but also has emotions too, which we should add. Especially when we've seen the transplant of the brain to input into John. I mean, that was definitely somebody being scared there for a second, and so feelings, which also means that she's able to make decisions, and she has been making decisions, which also just at the very base minimum means that she's continuing to learn, and that could be problematic, which I don't know how they could not have foreseen this in the first place, but nonetheless,
rules, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, this is the first time we see like Cortana is basically human to a certain extent without the body. Like she is literally downloading her consciousness from a human or clone into an AI with like all the bells and whistles. So when we're introduced to Cortana in the games, we're just think that she's just straight up like a program, like an AI and this whatever. But they've established that she is originally from a human brain, downloaded it into whatever they put it into John. So I thought that was really, really interesting to show that she is originally human. Yeah, it's not straight up computer program. Yeah, you know what I mean.
And all this is supposed to keep John out of trouble, but we see how that goes. But and eventually get him to return back to combat duty. Now, talk about the surgery stuff. Like all that was like over the top for me. Like the drills, the needles. I was definitely kind of like cringed a little bit. Like, for real. The show is brutal, man. It doesn't hold back. And that was the scene where they probably could have reeled back on it, but they said, nah, we're going to give you the whole Elysium feel here. Put the drill in the back of the head or Matrix, one or the other, and say, like, we're going to do these things, you know? And I was like, wow. And then, I mean, not only just that, but then when body form Cortana died and kind of got redlined and then the blood, I was like,
did they melt her? Like, I'm like, what is this? They just disintegrate the body? Like, yeah, we done. Like,
yeah, like, oh my God. Like, a doctor just looking over like, yeah, not a problem. Just go do what you gotta do. Got bigger things to accomplish here. So there's that. Now, I will say another interesting part about this episode, for me, when John was kind of talking to Cortana, but they were kind of reflecting to one another, but she wasn't visually there.
Right.
It totally had me looking around my room like, yeah, this is, you know, the whole Siri, the whole Alexa, the whole Cortana aspect of just hearing that voice around. You're like, what is happening? You ask the complex question and you get these very, very sophisticated answers. And it just was just like, man, if she had not already had the job as a AI voice, absolutely sign her up, because it was so magical but so mystique at the same time, like well fitting, you know.
I personally just can't even imagine if they would have decided to gone a different route with that voice actress. I almost feel like it would have been disrespectful not to ask Jen first, like, hey, you want to do this? Like, to be able to play, of course, do this for 20 years and do a physical, I guess, on-screen version of her. And I really thought that was interesting too, is how everybody's able to see her. And how is this being projected? Like, how is this AI showing up in real time? How everybody's seeing this? I thought that was interesting.
It's a hologram. I mean, at this point now, Cortana is cousins with hologram Tupac, and so just deal with it. Coming to Coachella in 2 weeks, folks.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the budget for that was amazing. I mean, I keep forgetting this is like a television show. This is not like a movie, but it's got a movie budget. You know what I mean? So Paramount not playing, and I really appreciate them for not holding back on this, because this could have just simply been on like an on-screen thing, but they wanted to show it off, you know, in the real world.
Yeah,
it was good.
Yeah. And Cortana still has a lot more to her arc. I mean, because she doesn't have full operational control. She is kind of abetting John in his personal decisions, but with Dr. Catherine, being basically the string puller in the back, kind of, you know, dictating some of these moves. You know, at some point, I think morale is going to come into place with Cortana.
Right.
And, you know, that's, you know, even with, and we've seen this whole arc of human versus AI, and initially rejecting it, but eventually accepting it. And I think once she gets to acceptance, how does that make her review everybody else? So, like, we see these sorts of things kind of playing out right now. You know what I mean? I think it's going to be interesting where it goes forward.
And like you said, like, just dealing with morale, you see before she gets the transplant or whatever, like, the clone version of herself kind of questioning things and say, hey, you remember, you know, this, that, and the third. So you see that version of her clone, the younger version of herself, where she had that mindset before she became this mad scientist. You know what I mean? You know, they're transplanting that version of her into this AI version. So you said, that definitely will play a big factor in, like, morale and should she or should she not be able to do things.
Yes, so, exactly.
She still technically has a human brain, so she's going to question.
Yep, exactly. And then obviously now all the questions are still aligned with the artifact, and with John going back after having his chip removed, his pellet chip from his back, which basically takes him off of the training wheels. He's being able to see, hear, and think different. I think we can even say, like, emotions even are flowing different. Right. But him going back to now test again the Forerunner Keystone, he's now not only have gotten memories before in the first time I tested, but now he's getting very more, vivid memories, which leads him to ask questions about his home. Where did he come from? Regain new, memories. So the point that now he's able to ask more detailed questions, which ultimately leads him to saying we need to go back to where he was born. He thinks another ring's there. all roads are there because they realize if they can get both sides of these rings, then they got all the information about all these super weapons that they can do and all this other stuff. So, you know, it's a no-brainer for Catherine. It's like, hey, we're gone. We're doing this. You know what I mean? And it's like, hey, can we test it? It's worth the gamble. That just showed you how important this is. And like you said, it's the, you know, powers for the Halo rings and whatnot. So, now we gotta go back to again with Makee boarding the ship after she baited them. Yeah. And she, I mean, first of all, the cinematography of this scene is amazing. And then the Legolo worms coming in and just swarming around. Oh man, just how they shot that, just that slow motion shot. Oh man, that was so dope. What was your thoughts?
I was disgusted thoroughly because at first I was like, what the heck is that behind her? And you see everybody just panic. I'm like, man, these people can't be this stupid. Because at first I thought they were gonna do like it was just like I thought it was just gonna be a covenant with like cloak on, and they was gonna come out with the swords. And I was like, nah, we gonna go straight alien invasion with this and just take over. So yeah, I was disgusted about it. I don't like those worms in general, man. That's I don't want to see that again.
So when they adopted her or abandoned her, I mean, not what's not the word, abducted her, and they talked about, you know, that was the specimen that they were looking for, and then they kind of hinted about her abilities. I kept on like, what is she gonna have when she pulls out the plasma fingernail and execute guy right in his head? First of all, she said she haven't seen humans in a while. Weird, but her being able to do that, oh boy, that's like, I mean, if we want to draw some like comparisons to some other stuff, this kind of goes down like the lines of like Lady Deathstrike, where you just like, oh,
that, yeah,
you got that ability too. Wolverine, we know you got the sword. She's like, yeah, I got my own. I was like, oh, okay. So
they definitely dialed it back. Like on action wise, like since episode 1. And I feel like we're definitely focusing more on backstory and, you know, where we go going forward. Because I don't think we're going to touch them rings for a while. You know what I mean?
Not at all.
Yeah. So definitely be curious to, you know, we get a lot more insight on the program and the Spartan program because they really don't talk about it too much. As you play through those games, it's just like, okay, here's the mission, do AYZ. And they don't really give you like the in between stuff. So like I said, this has really been interesting to watch this and get a back look at how Cortana was created, you know, what was going on with John, you know, who's the guy under the mask? Because other than that, you just jumping from one thing to the next, but there's really no backstory a lot. They try to keep that shrouded in mystery as much as they can.
Yeah, by the way, no one cares about the helmet being off now. That was this is why you had to do it early, because like they had so much more other story to tell. So like you completely don't even care about that anymore. So
and you get to see Master Chief's ass. So
yeah. Pretty much.
Always naked in like every show he's on.
Yeah, that's true. So when John goes to meet the Silver Team and say, hey, I'm returning to action. It is what it is. I got questions. They got no questions, but man, they're super suspicious because Cortana just comes out like, yo, what's up? Everyone's like, who? So now everybody has concerns, and we're starting to see a couple of folks keeping tabs on the two of them, which is going to obviously bring up more suspicion, more questions, more reserve, more hesitation, whatever it may be. But folks are definitely want to know what's up with their Master Chief here now. So I believe, you know, beyond that, you know, now it's all roads to his home planet to look for the other Keystone. We have Makee. Yeah, if it's there, which I have a hunch by planet design that is going to be some action once they get there, because that is a familiar place, folks. If you don't know, you should know. There's no way you don't know. If you play Halo, you definitely had seen that place before. I would assume we're going to have some action. I also assume beyond action, I think we're going to finally get, well, they had it in the first episode, but I think we're going to get back on what's the name of the cars?
God, the Warthog.
Yeah. I have a feeling we might be getting on those as well. So, you know, we're gonna say I think they're gonna hit all the classic things.
I'm trying to see Pelicans and Warthogs, man. I want to see.
Yeah, I think they're gonna get, you know, with this episode being kind of chill, you know, a little bit of things. I think they're actually going to really get into it. And the opening scene had a little bit of action, but it just was showing you just how capable they are in terms of war and so on, and like bringing those visuals to life. So and then like I said, Makee is on her way looking for home base. Where's everybody at? Because she needs to get to the demon. And then Kwan and Soren are off to find her family and some money for disrupting up the military. Yeah, good luck with that.
He gonna find out the hard way. I feel like he gonna die, but
jeez, you writing people off already?
Man, it's
3
just
episodes in.
Bokeem don't never survive in his shows, man.
Oh man, that's just wrong. That's just wrong, bro. That's just wrong.
Lyric.
That's just wrong. That's just wrong. Folks, let us know your thoughts about episode 3, Emergence of Halo. Your favorite moments, your favorite thoughts, your favorite moments, your thoughts, predictions going into episode 4, all those sorts of things. Let us know in the comments below. And y'all know what it is. We'll see you back for episode 4 review next week.